What's your opinion on legalized euthanasia? I have to preface this by saying that I think that everybody has the right to choose to do with their own body as they please. However, there are some sort of moral differences when it comes to these sorts of things, right? From a euthanasia perspective, when it comes to human beings, the current consensus is that if you're terminally ill and you're about to die, no problem, right? Go right ahead. Get in that machine, flip that button, straight up to heaven. Okay, but what happens if you're not terminally ill? What happens if it's a little bit more mental? This is the article that I read. It's about a girl by the name of Zoraya Ter Beek. So she's 28 years old. She lives in the Netherlands and she has a good job. She's got a partner. She's 28. He's 40. He's an IT programmer. They've got a beautiful house that they're currently paying off. They've got 2 cats. But she is scheduled to be euthanized in May. She has suffered from depression, apparently her whole life. She has borderline personality disorder, as well as autism. And depression is something that she's tried to get help for, right? So she's seen psychiatrists in the Netherlands, where this is all legal, by the way. And she's gone back, and she's gone back, and she's gone back. And they've essentially just said to her, Zoraya, I'm sorry, but there's nothing further that we can do for you. And she has decided to get herself euthanized. Now, people are kind of up in arms about this, right? You've got one half of individuals saying 100%, let her do what she wants. It's her body, right? And you've got the other half of people saying that, but she's been given the gift of life. She's in such a better privileged position than most. How dare she want to take her own life when there's nothing wrong with her? And it's a very delicate story to be able to kind of go into, right? Because at the end of the day, like it or not, this is her decision, right? You're not able to talk about what somebody else should be doing with their life. That sort of imposition on something as tremendous as choosing to take your own life is insane. This is the article that I want to talk about. I'm 28 and I'm scheduled to die in May. So a journalist by the name of Rupa Subramanya did an interview with Zoraya, and it's a first-person interaction with this woman who's made the decision to end her own life. It's incredibly interesting, and it's a very well put together article. Zoraya Ter Beek, 28, expects to be euthanized in early May. Her plan is to be cremated. I did not want to burden my partner with having to keep the grave tidy, Ter Beeks texted me. We have not picked an urn yet, but that will be my new house. She added an urn emoji after house. Ter Beek, who lives in a little Dutch town near the German border, once had ambitions to become a psychiatrist, but she was never able to muster the will to finish school or start a career. She said she was hobbled by her depression and autism and borderline personality disorder. Now she was tired of living, despite, she said, being in love with her boyfriend, a 40-year-old IT programmer, and living in a nice house with their 2 cats. She recalled her psychiatrist telling her that they had tried everything, that there's no more we can do for you, it's never going to get any better. At that point, she said she decided to die. I was very clear that if it doesn't get any better, I can't do this anymore. As if to advertise her hopelessness, Ter Beek has a tattoo of a tree of life on her upper left arm, but in reverse. Where the tree of life stands for growth and new beginnings, my tree is the opposite. It is losing its leaves, it is dying. And once the tree died, the bird flew out of it. I don't see it as my soul leaving, but more as myself being freed from life. Regardless of your take on this, the fact that this poor girl is going through this and her mental state is this bad is heartbreaking, right? I obviously don't know what this poor woman has gone through in her life, but yeah, the Netherlands is a beautiful place, right? She sounds to have a really nice life. She's in love. She's got cats. The fact that her mental state is like this is heartbreaking. It's so sad that she's in a position like this. Her liberation, as it were, will take place at her living room. No music, she said. I'll be going on the couch in the living room. The doctor really takes her time. It's not that they walk in and say, lay down, please. Most of the time, it is first a cup of coffee to settle the nerves and create a soft atmosphere. Then she asks if I'm ready. I'll take my place on the couch. She will once again ask me if I'm sure, and she will start up the procedure and wish me a good journey, or in my case, a nice nap, because I hate it if people say safe journey. I'm not going anywhere. Then the doctor will administer a sedative, followed by a drug that will stop her heart. Ooh, dude! Just the practicality to hear this out loud is intimidating. It's really scary. It's really freaky, and it seems so morbid. When she's dead, a euthanasia review committee will evaluate her death to ensure the doctor adhered to due care criteria, and the Dutch government will almost certainly declare that the life of Zoraya Ter Beek was lawfully ended. She's asked her boyfriend to be with her to the very end. There won't be any funeral. She doesn't have much family. She doesn't think her friends will feel like going. Instead, her boyfriend will scatter her ashes in a nice spot in the woods that they have chosen together. I'm a little afraid of dying because it's the ultimate unknown. We don't really know what's next. Or is there nothing? That's the scary part. That's her! Ter Beek is one of a growing number of people across the West choosing to end their lives rather than live in pain. Pain that in many cases can be treated. Typically, when we think of people who are considering assisted suicide, we think of people facing terminal illness. But this is a new group that is suffering from other syndromes, depression or anxiety exacerbated, they say, by economic uncertainty, the climate, social media, and a seemingly limitless array of fears and disappointments. I know what you mean, man. Rent's expensive. I'm seeing euthanasia as some sort of acceptable option brought to the table by physicians, by psychiatrists, when previously it was the ultimate last resort. I see the phenomenon especially in people with psychiatric diseases and especially young people with psychiatric disorders, where the healthcare professional seems to give up on them more easily than before. So that's the thing, right? Is people are seeing... Let me just finish this. Who is this guy? Theo Boer, a healthcare ethics professional at Protestant Theological University in Groningen, served for a decade on a euthanasia review board in the Netherlands. I entered the review committee in 2005, and I was there until 2014. In those years, I saw the Dutch euthanasia practice evolve from death being a last resort to death being a default option. Oh, wow. You see, that's where the kind of give and take comes in, right? Boer had in mind people like Zoraya Ter Beek, who critics argue have been tactically encouraged to kill themselves by laws that destigmatize suicide, a social media culture that glamorizes it, and radical right-to-die activists who insist that we should be free to kill ourselves whenever our lives are complete. I mean, he makes a good point to some extent, right? They have fallen victim in critics' eyes to a kind of suicide contagion. Whoa! In 2001, the Netherlands became the first country in the world to make euthanasia legal. Since then, the number of people who are choosing to increasingly die is increasing, whatever. So that's where all of this comes in, okay? Is this correct? I mean, on one hand, you have, yes, you've got your own life, right? It's yours. You can do with it as you please. But then on the other hand, you've got individuals like this who are trying to kind of convince you that you've been brainwashed and told that these are medical professionals who, throughout a culture of suicide okaying, that you've been brainwashed and that you should not go through with this and just give it some more time and you know, don't rush into something as dramatic as taking your own life. It's a very delicate balance, right? And it's a very delicate situation to go into. Something I found out, which I thought was extremely creepy, is in 2013, for the first time in history, more than 5% of all deaths in the Netherlands was from assisted suicide and consented euthanasia. Now, granted, most of those people were terminally ill, right? But there's a lot more people who this is starting to happen to who are not terminally ill. They just have depression. So how this kind of works as well, I thought it was quite interesting, is you need to have two medical professionals, two psychiatrists sign off on this. You can't just go see one guy or one girl and go, "Excuse me, ma'am, I'd like to die." And they go, "No problem, I've got lunch in 20 minutes. Let's get those forms out of the way." You have to go to two people who have to come to an agreement that there is no other option, and that if you're happy to do so, they're happy to give the okay. Very, very odd, very weird. What do I think about it? I don't know. It's very scary, right? How she sort of broke it down, where you'll kind of come in and it'll be all quiet. That poor guy as well, right? You know, he's sort of going to be left with this ghost of his partner, knowing that she decided to take her own life. Oh, it isn't an easy situation all around. So I do want to know, what is your opinion? Should something like this be allowed, or should something like this be deterred?